12. See, Moses had already been up to the mountain once and he got the 11 statutes. He went up twice and he got the judgments. Now, listen to this in chapter 24 and verse 12. And the Lord said unto Moses, come up unto me and be in the mount and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone. Why is he just now going to give them tables of stone if he supposedly already gave them the 10 Commandments? That doesn't make sense, and my God makes sense. The God in this book makes sense. So come up here, I'm going to give you tables of stone and a law. This is the law that Jesus said he came to fulfill, and commandments, which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. Why would he have to teach them how to do something if it's already going to be a law, commandments, and things that he's just writing or just saying? So those were relationship type things, and then judgment, so that they can get along with each other and know how to get along, and how to judge different situations. Now he said, come, I'm going to give you tables of stone. This is in chapter 24 now. So he's up there. God is telling him everything, and now he's telling him how to make the Ark of the Covenant. Because the Ark of the Covenant is the Ark of the Covenant. He's going to give him these tables of stone that he wants put in the Ark of the Covenant. So now he's finna make the Ark of the Covenant. That's how you know there was no tables of stone before that. He didn't even get instructions on how to make the Ark of the Covenant yet. So now in 32 and 19, you got to go to Exodus 32 and verse 19 now. And it says, and it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh to the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot. Waxed means grow. And his anger grew hot. He got really, really upset. And he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. Now he broke them. They didn't even get the first set. So, was there a second set created? Yes. In chapter 34. If you go to chapter 34, verse 1 says, and the Lord said unto Moses, hew, which means cut. That's important. It says, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and I will write upon these tables the words that was in the first tables, which thou breakest. So he broke those, and now he's going to make Moses hew some stone out. That's going to be important for what we go talk about in a minute. Now, where's my pen at? Now, he made him cut some more out. First of all, and these were the tables of stone. Now, we finna get into what was written on the table of stone. Starting in verse 14 is where they begin. Because the first commandment is, let me see if I can find a pen. The first thing is, for thou shalt worship no God, no other God. That's verse 14. That is the first commandment. Yes, the first commandment is just like the first statute. That's always going to be first, because he wants you to know that first. He wants that to be first. Now the second one is in verse 17, which says, thou shalt make thee no molten gods. That's just like the second one. Yes, it is of the statutes. Just same thing. But now we're coming to something else now. It says in verse 18, the feast of the unleavened bread shalt thou keep. Well, we know that now to be the Passover, because in Exodus chapter 12, he told them what to do then. So that was the third commandment, and that one has blood in it. Because, okay, I'm gonna just go over them with you first, and then I'm gonna go down the line of what each of them is. Verse 19 says, all that open the matrix is mine. Every firstling among cattle, sheep, or ox, all that is male. That's talking about their male babies too, because the male kids were supposed to be dedicated back to God. The firstborn males were supposed to be dedicated back to God. That's why all the women in the Bible that God used to keep the bloodline going, that he was going to come through, they would all be barren. Everybody was barren that God was going to use. Even Mary was young, and Christ was the first baby. So what they had to do as being Jews was dedicate that firstborn son back to God, because he's the one that opened the womb. I'm sorry, the matrix is the womb. That's a different word for the womb, is matrix. I love the movies, by the way, too. So all that open the matrix is mine. That's verse 19. That was the fourth commandment. The fifth commandment is 6 days shalt thou work, but on the seventh day thou shalt rest. In earing time and in harvest thou shalt rest. So that's how we get in these old, the 50th Jubilee and everything, celebration and day of rest, and everybody that wants to start talking about that stuff. But the Sabbath day hasn't changed. He made that before commandments, before anybody else was created except for Adam and Eve. Well, no. He made them on the 6th day. So the 7th day, yeah, that he made that for man. So he made that for them. So it's for us to rest on that day. But anyway, so now we go down to the 6th one, which is in verse 22. And thou shalt observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. They have to keep these feasts. These are the Jewish holidays, but they were really called holy days. The rest of the world, the pagans, like their holiday, like their holy days, so they made them holidays. Even though some days they already had at the same time, because I understand the angels came down and taught them different methods and different arts of channeling and stuff like that, and so they already recognized astrology and astronomy and a whole bunch of other things that we as a people didn't recognize at first. So I'm with you on that too. The 7th commandment is in verse 23. It says, thrice in the year, 3 times, all your young men shall appear before the Lord your God, the God of Israel. Okay, so they had to appear 3 times. Okay, the 8th commandment is, thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven. Leaven is yeast. So that's why don't offer the blood of his sacrifice with yeast. We go understand what that is in a second. I'm going to tell you. The sacrifice that they had to do, though, they had certain things that they had to eat, and they couldn't have yeast in anything that they ate. So instead of people being all worried about eating pork, don't have yeast when you're doing the rituals. But these rituals are for Jews, though. These aren't the rituals for you. They were for the Jews. And this right here is what Christ became. Now, I'm going to show you how he became them in a second. Okay, the 9th and the 10th commandment is in verse 26. It says, the first of the first fruits of the land shalt thou bring unto the house of the Lord thy God. That's the first of the first fruits. See, they had a first fruit offering. They had and tithe. They had the tithe also. So this was different than the tithe, though, at the same time. Because what if they didn't have 10? Or, you know what I'm saying, the first fruits is the first one. Boom. And then the tithe was the first one of every 10. Boom. And then their offering was what they offered to God. But here we go. We're going to keep going. Here's the second part of it. Verse 26 has commandment 9 and 10 in it. This is 10 right here. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. They say don't boil a young goat in the milk of the mother. At the same time, this means don't they could see an animal that died of itself and they weren't supposed to eat it, but they could sell it. Just they weren't supposed to eat it. See, these eating ritual laws were for Jews. And this is what they had to do during their feast time and during their sacrificial times. It's not what they had to do during any other time. So that's what they had to do then. But it goes to don't co-marry. He didn't want them mingling with somebody else. And they're like, how did you get that from that? Well, when you understand, when you read the entire Bible, that's what you're going to get. All right, excuse me for a second. So now, right from verse 26, let's go right down to 27 and 28. Listen to this. 27 says, and the Lord said unto Moses, write thou these words, for after the tenor of these words, I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel. This is the covenant that they had with God. Verse 28 says this. Now tell me how you can get around this verse. And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights He did neither eat bread nor drink water, and he wrote upon the table the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. You cannot get around that. If you say anything else is the 10 commandments in the Bible, you are not from God, and you may as well just go ahead and jump in hell already because you just went against what the Bible said. Now, I do understand how other people can get other things. Some